Hi, I'm Stephanie McKeith. This is Cancer Coach Chat, and I'm here with Dr. Christine Schaffner. She is a board-certified naturopathic doctor who helps people recover from chronic and complex illnesses because she goes beyond the biological medical, and utilizes systems of medicine and healing. She has this all-encompassing approach that uncovers root causes of illness and how they are actually just shredding our health apart. And this is why I want to share her with you today. Getting to the root cause is something that we desperately need to focus more so on, because there's a lot of sick people. There's also a lot of sick care management, and you know that. We've got all the latest and greatest in medical technology and the most advanced in drugs, yet people are still suffering in their sickness. I believe the reason for this is apparent and simple, but that's me. Just slaps me in the face. Mainstream care isn't designed to support and heal you. Its purpose is to prescribe a pill for your ill. It's an obscenely profitable industry that is not making anyone better and certainly is not making them healthy. It's attacking the thing or your diagnosis, whatever it is that you've been labeled with, but it's not expanding or broadening what got you to that point. It leaves out the most important factors, which is why you got sick in the first place. The most ridiculous of all to me is preventative or proactive, is what I'm hearing now, chemotherapy. So we're taking a sick person and giving them substances that are and most definitely making them sicker. So thank the good Lord for doctors like Dr. Christine, who is shifting the paradigm of chronic illness to instead heal our ecosystem, the terrain, the microbiome, and traumas, because it can all either make you sick or heal you if you care for it properly. So Dr. Christine, you are well known for jump-starting the biofield for healing. So first, for my friend listening, what is a biofield? And thank you for your precious time for sharing with us.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me. And I just love your message and your mission. And I'm just so glad to be here. And I think it's a really great place to start, right? When we look at the body, and we talk a lot about the physical body, which is very important to look at and heal and uncover root causes. But we want to take it a step further and kind of have this other perspective of who we are and think about maybe root causes, beyond the physical body. And there's this term called biofield, and this term was actually put into PubMed in the 1990s. I have a mentor and a friend, Dr. Beverly Rubik, and she is a biophysicist out of UC Berkeley, and she really pioneered getting this language and this understanding into, quote, mainstream for us to have a conversation, right? Just beyond, esoteric or ancient ideas of auras and chakras. And while they're very much, a very big part of this, I'm just giving it a different language. And so the biofield is this field of information and energy that surrounds all of us. And, when we think about the body, we think a lot in terms of biochemistry, right? So we think a lot of, hormone interactions, neurotransmitter interactions, cell-to-cell communication with all of these different molecules, which is very much how we work. But there's this whole other lens with looking at the body and our physiology through physics. And that's when we think about fields. And so there is this concept of an electromagnetic field. So that is, again, in principle of physics. And this is part of our biofield. And we know that our heart, right, is the strongest creator and generator of the strongest electromagnetic field in the body. And this is measurable. We can actually measure this in conventional medicine and then through my friends at Heart Math, we look at, the rhythm of the heart and the field that's generated of the heart, and how actually our emotions can actually very much affect that field of information. So the electromagnetic field of the heart is part of the field. And then it's all, I have another good friend, her name is Eileen McCusick, and she created a whole system in medicine called biofield tuning. And what that means is she actually uses sound and the physics of sound to interact with the biofield. And, what she actually calls this, biofield, she says that it's a bioplasmic toroidal shaped field. So think of like this donut, this donut torus shape that surrounds us. And it's, again, full of, again, these electromagnetic information, but also this other concept of plasma. And plasma is the fourth state of matter. And what that means is that in conventional physics and a lot of, what we've been taught is that space is an empty vacuum. And there are other people through Eileen and the work of, there's, again, if you want to go down and Google these people, there's Nassim Haramein, who has the unified field theory. There are people who are talking about the electric universe. And what they're talking about is that basically space is this highly charged, highly interconnected of the fabric of the universe that not only surrounds us, but interconnects us. And that's, I think, a really beautiful way to look at life and the world. And again, the science is catching up to share how this is, how this is measured. And again, Eileen and many people write that the biofield it's measurable about 5 to 6 feet around us. So we can measure this field. And then it's about 2 to 3 feet on either end, like the top and the bottom of us. And it's kind of like we only have our own little, Earth's atmosphere. So it's actually, we have like a membrane kind of magnetic layer that kind of protects us. So all of a sudden, right, you can start kind of thinking about your body, like you have this beautiful physical body, but you also have this field that we generate, but also that we're connected with. And the way I think about the biofield is another way to help understand where there could be root causes to why we have physical disturbances and how to support the body in clearing that. And then I think it's also very much a way to connect with, again, whatever you believe in, but in my version of how I make sense of this is another opportunity to connect with what I'll just call the unified field.
Yeah.
And this is an area where we can access for unlimited healing potential, right? And this is, a beautiful, I think, way to look at the world and access energy and healing that, unless you're aware of, you might never maybe contemplate in your life, right? So that's a long-winded answer for the biofield. Just start thinking about, this energy that surrounds us and that we're interacting with life, through this lens, whether we're aware of it or not.
So is this similar or the same thing as when somebody's referring to your energy centers or chakras?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of it, right? So we have, depending on, what books you read,
Right.
7 to 8 to 9 to 10 to 12, energy centers in the body. And those energy centers are part of our bioenergetic field, very much, but they're not the only part, so we have these energy centers, we have physical parts of our body that generate electromagnetic fields. And then we have this substance that we would call plasma, which would be more the aura or the energy body, or things that have been called these types of words through ancient traditions.
Okay. So one thing I tell my clients is that there is no physical symptom without an emotional correlate.
Mhm.
So that's my technical way to describe your emotions matter and are affecting your health. So in the biofield, this is where we can get that deeper understanding of how our emotions and our relationships and these experiences are actually impacting our health, right? But how do you how can we explain to my friend how your emotions or the health of your relationships are actually impacting your physical being?
Yeah, I think it's such an important common denominator for any physical illness, and I'm a firm believer of that as well. And my patients have taught me that. And I feel that our emotions affect all sorts of different parts of us, and that's why they can manifest in illness. Some of my mentors call emotions energy and motion. So when you think
Mhm.
about that, there's an energetic quality to our emotional feelings and our traumas. And I think about, emotions, let's just call it like unresolved emotions or
Mhm.
unresolved traumas or things that are, affecting us on an unconscious level. They can affect different parts of us. And the way that I look at it and I try to explain to my patients, when we think about the physical body, trauma can affect a part of our brain called the limbic brain that can keep us in this fight or flight. And it can affect our cranial nervous system, especially our autonomic nervous system and our cranial nerve, the vagus nerve. It can affect our fascia. We'll sometimes say the issues are in the tissues, right? So
Yes.
our physical, connective tissue and what we call fascia, actually the water within the fascia, there are brilliant people like Dr. James Oshman calling it fascial memory. And that's why maybe you will experience body work or craniosacral therapy or myofascial work or energy healing. And you might not have a conscious awareness of an emotion, but all of a sudden you start experiencing an emotion that's really literally being released from the tissues in the body. And then
Mhm.
there's this whole idea that emotions can affect the field. So there can be emotions like there's different people who have different perspectives, but this field is not, again, an empty space. It's highly alive, it's highly active, and it's full of information, right? And and especially Eileen's work, she talks about how this field can hold a memory and that we can have trauma or emotions stuck in our field that is having a downstream effect on basically the organization of our physiology. So, unhealed trauma can be stuck in the biofield and it needs to be accessed through what we can talk about different things, and that can be affecting us. And then one other part, Stephanie, is that emotions can affect, I mentioned already, our friends at Heart Math, it can affect our heart rate and our heart rhythm. And they
Mhm.
find that when we are in states of gratitude, love, and appreciation, we actually have a more coherent heart rhythm that translates into a stronger, coherent field that basically helps to create more order, more alignment, more organization, and more, health in our physical bodies. When we're in these states, like we're wired to be, our physiology is wired to perform better when we're in states of love and gratitude and appreciation. And then states of like anxiety, fear, worry, depression, they can really affect our heart rhythm. And, it's part of life. We have to feel these things. And I'm not saying don't feel any negative emotion. I mean,
Right.
we have to feel that, but feeling it, fully feeling it, and allowing it to move through you and out of you and not stay in that pattern, I think is a big part of, walking on this earth plane, and experiencing the full range of life.
So that constant, like getting stuck in a loop is what you're talking about, of that, the circumstance that leads to the emotion, and then you keep experiencing this feeling, this negative feeling from, say, abuse or neglect from your parents in childhood, and just that unhealthy relationship with your parents as you move through life, and then you find yourself in your 50s with a cancer diagnosis, and then somebody like Dr. Christine wants to come along and work through those traumas. And this is where it's so you can do all the things and check mark all the coffee enemas and eating organic and juicing your food and taking your supplements, but if we don't get into resolving these traumas, then this this can keep us sick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, healing is unique to every person's journey. But I think that our physical bodies are a huge barometer, of our emotional and mental and spiritual well being and states. And if you can really, from a very empowered way, look at your life story, and when you get to such a pinnacle in your journey with a diagnosis such as cancer, if you can really look at it through the lens of this is an opportunity to heal,
Mhm.
um, those things that are not healed within me, within my family unit, maybe even within my lineage, that there's a huge, profound opportunity to generate health and well-being and really heal on a deep level that ultimately, potentially your soul chose to experience this so you could experience such profound healing. And again, I don't wish anyone suffering or illness or anything like that, but that's again what life and my patients have taught me, that the more we look at this and the more we can experience life through this lens, I believe there's just so much freedom and so much flow and so
Mhm.
much health in the body.
So then we can use this as a preventative tool then, correct? So
Yeah.
how would somebody jumpstart their biofield in order to prevent a cancer diagnosis? Or even if they do have a cancer diagnosis, how do you jumpstart it? Where do you even start?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the language of the biofield is the language of biophysics, right? So this is going to be the language of light and sound and
Mhm.
energy and vibration. And so how to think about, I mentioned this idea of coherence already. So coherence is a principle within biofield science of basically ordered, aligned, basically energy that's in flow and not stuck. Let's just keep it really simple, right? And
Right.
so, how do we add more coherent information to our field and into our bodies? And that can lead to health and healing. So, light is a very powerful tool. We also, part of the principles of biofield science is to understand that we actually are made of light and our body communicates very much with biophotons. And when we have healthy cells, they have more coherent light emissions. And when we have sick cells or cancer cells, they've lost the orderedness of the light and they even leak light. And so part of that idea is to bring more coherent light to the body so the body can communicate and heal. And so you can use, I'm, a big believer that nature provides a lot of what we need.
Yes.
So, really, no matter where you live, trying to get exposed to sunrise and sunset, trying to get out of the indoor environment and really get into the, sun exposure, that can be very helpful. And then looking at light, your environmental light, I think we're all in this kind of disordered circadian biology because of the mismatch of light that the
Mhm.
sun is emitting versus what we're experiencing in the indoor environment. So we get not the probably proper signals to our pineal gland throughout the day. And so, having like more blue, brighter light during the day and more red, amber light during the night. And they're great people who are making like blue blocking glasses and even circadian light bulbs and
Mhm.
our technology, being very aware of that. And then there's a lot of tools, right? There's a lot of different light therapies that are way more accessible than they ever have been to
Mhm.
bring into your home. So looking at red light or infrared light. And then there's a whole, I know many people who are listening might be going through a cancer diagnosis.
Mhm.
There's a whole field of medicine approaching cancer called photodynamic therapy. And it's a lot of the work that's pioneered by this German doctor, Dr. Weber.
Mhm.
And it's this idea that we ingest a photosensitizer, so substances that actually allow or that are taken up by our cells and that respond to different wavelengths of light and can stimulate apoptosis of cancer cells or, basically our immune system to fight infection. So it's a really fascinating field of medicine, but I just take a little minute to say that it's just to expose people, but also just this idea of just adding light and exposing your body to healthy forms of different wavelengths of light can be very helpful. So light, sound is very profound for the body. I mentioned already Eileen's work with biofield tuning, and she sells tuning forks that you can use and work on yourself. There's other just different music that you can just listen to, and that has a way to add just more coherent sound to your body. Our cells actually not only communicate with light, but they can communicate with sound, and they found that cells that are healthy have like kind of a coherent harmonious sound, and that cells that are sick or dying or cancer or genetic mutations have that screeching kind of sound. So adding more
Yeah.
sound to our body, and that can also unlock and unblock emotions in the field. I have other techniques that I use in the office that are different therapies. I have a equipment from Austria called the Sound of Soul, where we take your heart and convert it to music and play it back to you.
Wow.
It's pretty fascinating. You'll have to meet Rasmus. Sound can affect the water in our body too. There's this whole field called somatic,
Mhm.
CYMTICS. I'm a visual person, so if people are like, how does sound affect, matter? That's a really great place to Google, because you can see where different frequencies and different vibrations of sound can actually change the shape of matter and change the shape of water into these beautiful patterns. And this idea that these patterns in the body actually regulate our physiology is, I think, where we're going to understand this more and more. Sound is really, I also use a tool called the AO scan, and it has this program called the inner voice, where you speak into it and it finds where there's high and low tones, and then basically gives you balancing harmonics and music to listen to balance that. And the voice is a window into our subconscious thoughts. And so basically they found that when people have different ranges, what that corresponds to, like suppression of emotions or unhealed anger or so forth. So it's like a nice way to look at that. Sound, light, getting outside and grounding can be a great way to get electrons, into
Mhm.
your body, and that can be very
Mhm.
helpful for your energy field. There's a lot of different frequency devices too. So basically, frequency is information that can help add, information to help heal different tissues, organs, glands. That's a whole rabbit hole that I'm happy to talk more about. And then, there's a lot of, I believe in, we're studying more and more on the work of intention and being in community, and prayer, and modern, what that looks in the modern era, that when you come together and intend for another, I think that has more and more of a powerful effect than we realize. And the work of Lynn McTaggart, she's trying to study that and bring awareness to that. So these are the concepts that we work with when we're thinking about the field. So that, and then there's, gifted healers like yourself who, have a way of working, that they combine all of these things and, support people. And that's amazing, right? So yeah, those are the things I, think about when addressing the biofield.
So when we're talking about the sound therapy, say somebody doesn't have access to the tuning forks or that type of equipment, does listening to something that's been pre-recorded, or like if you find something on YouTube, will you
Yeah.
still get the same effect?
Yeah, they have YouTube is great. You can look up like different, like the frequency of love, or different music that really is in that frequency of that emotion, and then that can be very helpful. So YouTube is a great place. You can tone yourself. You can with the vagus nerve, we talk about doing the bee breath or buzzing or humming, and generating your own tones can be very helpful for regulating your nervous system and your emotions and your field. So that's another place to think about, free on YouTube,
Yeah,
free that you can generate, right? And
right.
I have a friend who goes to the jungle, and she goes to listen to the music of nature, and how that actually has a resonance to heal as well. So getting out into nature and just listening, starting to listen and tune in. And there's so much sound in nature that unless you're tuned into, you could miss.
So all of this, I guess, energy medicine, right?
Yeah.
So how is this affecting healthy cells versus unhealthy, or like a cancerous cell? Is it boosting the healthy cell and making them stronger? And what is it doing to the cancer cells?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both for everything. So again,
Okay.
adding more, um, for the healthy cells, getting them stronger, them better in communication, them, regulating better. And then with cancer cells, the goal, with especially photodynamic therapy is to
Mhm.
stimulate, cancer cell death, right? So to debulk the amount of cancer in your body. There is a whole world called sonodynamic therapy
Yes.
as well, where they use sound to basically
Mhm.
kill, cancer cells. So that's a different frequency that basically can stimulate apoptosis as well. So there can be light and sound, again, in combination with things, can be a tool to help decrease cancer in the body. And then it's not only like decreasing the load, but also, as we mentioned, going to the root cause and helping to restore communication with the cells that can still access, that restored communication. Sorry, I just sneezed.
Oh, bless you. So Photosona was actually a big component to my sister's recovery from
Oh, great.
cancer. Oh,
Yeah.
it was incredible. It was
Yeah.
such a huge part that combined with everything.
Yeah.
But another topic that you keep mentioning is vagus nerve stimulation or vagal nerve tone. What is how can my friend understand that better?
Yeah, absolutely. So the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, and it has a lot to do with regulating our autonomic nervous system. So a lot of those automatic parts of our body, especially our heart, our lungs, our digestion. And then there's this whole other component to the vagus nerve that is all about connection and community. And, we can often store trauma in our vagus nerve and or toxins or infections. And so it can be really a player in disruptive physiology because of all the things that it regulates. And so there are lots of things we look at the physical level, and then from this level, we can stimulate the vagus nerve, with sound, generating our own sound. So just exercising your voice, humming, toning, gargling can be another thing that can be helpful.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan of also improving lymphatic drainage around the vagus nerve to allow the vagus nerve to kind of, be better supported and to have better communication. And so we use different topicals, but you can also just kind of even just making sure that you're getting good lymph drainage in your neck, can really help the health of the vagus nerve as well.
So like self massage?
Yeah, we do like the lymphatics is a huge topic, right? And the lymphatics is a big part of our work as well. And the lymphatic system obviously is really important to be appropriately guided, especially if you're dealing with cancer. But
Mhm.
it's a really big part of our system. It's it helps get rid of waste and toxins, and also supports our immune system. And so if we have congestion or stagnation in our lymphatic system, that can affect our whole body and can be really taxing on our body. So with the vagus nerve, we always want to open up the lymphatics where the neck drains. So kind of the left thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct. So opening that up and then draining the neck. So you can do massage. You can use some of those gua shas or jade rollers. You can also use anything that can help with vibration. And then we have different topicals that we'll use as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, you mentioned downloading a trauma into the vagus nerve. How does a trauma get downloaded? How does an experience that's not physical get stuck in the body?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think we're all, trying to find a language around that.
Yeah.
The work of Stephen Porges, right, in the polyvagal theory, he has a lot of his insights around how there's different parts of the vagus nerve, the dorsal and the ventral
Mhm.
vagus nerve, and how basically, he talks about getting stuck in fight, flight, or freeze. If we've had these traumatic experiences, and especially I think the freeze response happens a lot, and so that traumatic event can affect communication and regulation, in the vagus nerve. So that's one, layer around that. And then, I shared too how I feel, where science is going is, also looking about how these emotions, traumas, injuries to the body can affect or get stored, right, in the structured water within the body, or affect the light emissions in the body. So I think that's really where we're going there.
Okay.
um I mean, I could go in a lot of different directions with explaining that, but I think for our purposes today, that's a good, like, a little preview of how
Mhm.
emotions get stuck, especially in the nervous system. And I guess the only other thing that I would just say for that is there's a whole field, right, that I'm sure you've educated people about, called psychoneuroimmunology, right? And
Yeah.
that how, our emotions can really affect our downstream physiology, and I think on the flip side of that, right, we can use all of that power to heal.
Yes. Yes. So you are amazing, and everything that you offer to your patients is such a blessing. How can my friend, if he or she wants to learn more from you, or are you taking new patients?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I still take new patients and I
Okay.
work with a team, and I have a clinic in Seattle. It's called Immanence Health. Immanence stands for that quality of all of us, that we have this divine nature within us. And so, we have a wonderful team of providers, and we also do telemedicine for depending on where you live. And then we have a
Mhm.
office in the Bay Area as well. So you can find me there. And then I have a podcast as well, and I have a website, drchristineschaffner.com.
Awesome. Yeah, because you cannot fully or truly heal unless you're taking care of your whole being, which is what holistic means. It's not this scary, weird thing. We have so much evidence now to back this up and support these practices that are shifting this paradigm from only medicine or only attacking the cancer. We know better now, so we have to do better.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you. Thank you
I
for your time.
I appreciate you. Thank
Yes.
you so much for having me.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.